Well, thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Susana, and this is the Susana Gibb Show. And today, I'm so excited. So Troy Grant is with me today. He is one of the founding members of 4-Day Weekend. They are an improv group that we are so lucky to have. How many years have we had you now?
It's coming up on 29 years. On February 28th, it'll be 29 years.
29 years.
Crazy.
Yes. Troy has been my fake husband probably, I think, at least 3 times in different commercials.
At least 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go way back, and I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here. Let me just say that right off the bat. That was such a good build-up. I'm like, oh God, now I have to say something.
You know that, when you're, I don't know, you grab an animal and you're like, I love you so much, and you clench your teeth. That's how I feel about you.
Oh my God.
I love you that much that I clench.
But I'm not in any kind of danger as far as you can tell. As far as the grabbing part, I know what you're saying. You're right, though. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, when you...
You're like, why do I want to squeeze you so hard?
We've got a bigger dog, a medium-sized dog, but so it's nice to be able to just love on it. But thank you. That's very sweet.
Slightly scary. I
don't know. At any point, let's clinch and embrace.
So I'm gonna give you some history on this podcast.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this season. We're talking about mindset and confidence, but this is an experiment because we have this insurance agency, right?
Right.
We have to generate content, etc., for the insurance agency, and I have this passion for talking to people, entertaining, and being on camera. And so this is the intersection of where they meet.
Yeah.
And so we are talking a lot about to business people, athletes, about how you show up, how you present yourself, because whether you are showing up on stage like you are or going in to pitch this big sales proposal, you have to kind of bring your energy to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to you about how you do some of that. And I think since we're here, let's go ahead and talk about that, because how many days a week are you on stage?
I would say at least the 2 weekend nights that we do the shows for sure. And then I would say on average, 2 other nights, there'll be some sort of corporate event that I'm some part of in some way, shape, or form. So it's 4 nights.
Okay.
4 nights a week.
How many times do you think you've had to show up to be on stage or on set? If you had to try and wrap your head around that number.
Oh boy, like in my whole career.
In your whole career.
I'm just now calling it a career. Now that I look back, oh damn, I had a career, I guess.
Yeah.
Since I've been in this for 30 years.
Right?
God, I'm gonna guess, I don't know, 6,000 times that I've jamming down butterflies and trying to breathe and not have a heart attack before I hit the stage. So that's my guess.
Yeah.
A bunch. If
How
that
do you,
helps.
How do you prep? But to do that, right?
That's interesting. Yeah. Over the years, I've prepped in all sorts of ways. I used to be very ritualistic about certain things. And I look back on those and God, I loved them. I had this whole Saturday routine that I loved, which involved getting up and watching Rick Steves. And then
the travel guy?
The travel guy.
I loved him.
Oh my God. I still have a crush on him.
Okay.
Rick Steves is still the man.
Is this a relaxing part of the day? You're
completely.
Okay.
Yeah. Early in the day, because that would be around 10 o'clock. Just get in that dorky Rick Steves vibe.
Yeah.
And then that's going to keep my gut rested until it starts getting closer to showtime, where I get nervous as a performer.
Still?
Oh God, yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That surprises me.
Yeah, no, that's my number one little deal, is just controlling my nerves, kind of controlling my breath as the anxiety starts to build, as I know that time's going to come. But that's what I always kind of tell myself too. It's like, no matter how I feel about a gig or what, it's like that time's going to come. 5, 4, 3, 2, boom. It's that time's going to hit, and then bump, 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 bump. It's going to be over. The lights will be on. Something's going to happen. I'm not quite sure what. So to get to that point when the lights are going to hit, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's always about kind of managing my gut and my nerves and all that sort of thing. So, but back in the day, that was part of it, was Rick Steves, and then, listen to This American Life on the drive over to Fort Worth, and then have my smoothie. There was a lot of things like that. I used to also go to Luby's back in the day.
Interesting.
When I first started doing stand-up, I would go an hour before the show. I'd go to Luby's, and I'd sit there by myself, which was easy to do at Luby's. Do you remember Luby's?
Yeah, I didn't really frequent it, though.
Oh, you're missing out.
Yeah, I'm
You're
sorry.
missing out. I get my little cafeteria meal, and I sit there, do my little, just gonna absorb this food and try to relax, and then go do my show. But I'm not sure I'm answering your question. So
So what do you do now?
what do I do now?
Because if you're not doing Rick Steves,
I still will. Yeah, I'm not as ritualistic. Once you have kids, you have to kind of, all your timing kind of changes and that sort of thing. I'm a big pacer and a big checker. Like, especially now, since I improvise, I'm working with a lot of people. So when I get to the show, there's already 5 or 6 people there getting ready, prepping. So I have my little greetings and stuff, but then I kind of got to wander around and check things and just kind of see what's going on. Ooh, that's one thing I used to do that I loved. I used to go into the back of the theater, and I would sit in the dark at the very back row, especially in Fort Worth, where it's kind of dark back there, and watch the crowd come in. Because when we first started doing the show, it's like every show, it's like, oh, there's my buddy. Oh, there's my cousin. They're all supporting us. And there got to be a point where it's just like, I don't know anybody in this audience. And that just still makes my heart sore that
people
strangers come to see the show. And so that was one of my favorite rituals, was to sit in the back like a weirdo watching people come in. And I don't know, I just love that. That's one little ritual. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So right before the lights come, like you're standing in the wings, ready to come out, do you know what you're doing at that point? I was trying to imagine, honestly.
It depends on what it is. Like, sometimes I'll do a little VO thing at the top, and so I kind of rehearse that in my head. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, welcome before every, I'll do that. I'll run that, make sure I'm not going to stumble over that. And then I'll be doing some shadow boxing, to kind of get my blood flowing. And then, yeah.
I feel like
kind of relax.
there's like a centering that happens, and it's kind of hard to describe, though, honestly. Like, I think about, like, in that brief moment, even before, like, being on set and somebody says action, and that momentary pause when they're like, between
That's such a terrifying.
that like brief second of just like, it's this inward, but out. So
No, I need to tap into your deal on that. It's better now. We go far enough back to where people shot film, and I was so aware of, like, every second I hear that click, 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 that's somebody's money. And so the minute it's like roll camera, click, 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 I would start tensing up. And then there's that whole little ritual of, like, ready camera, ready sound, where is it? And then that little quiet, you're right. And then it's like,
turn it on.
oh God, and then your mind's like, oh God, what am I, action, da, 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 you go into it. But
I kind of forgot, though, until you just said it, about film and the pressure to get it right.
yeah, you check the gate, and then you find out 2 days later, oh, there was a hair in there, or what, whatever, it was exposed wrong. There was to me.
Don't mess up the lines. You would have 2 takes,
Oh,
whereas
God.
now you can do as many takes.
Yeah, now you just
You can
roll
roll
and
forever.
matter.
So let's talk about improv,
Let's do it.
because I've tried to explain.
Did I answer any of that first question? But okay, good.
You did good.
You can cut around it.
So we'll fix it in post.
8 hours of footage, and here we go. Yeah.
I did not do improv, but I took the classes, and they were some of my favorite that I ever took, and I was scared of it for a long time,
Yeah.
which is interesting. I think the thing that you're most scared of, you should probably just go do and get it over with.
Yes.
But I did love the rules, and I use the rules in many other applications of my life.
Sure.
So would you explain a couple of, like, the top 4 basic rules in improv?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and what's funny about improv is, like, at some point, like, once you know the rules,
Oh, you break them.
a little bit. And that's the part I like. Because sometimes, I used to teach classes, and people would be like, oh, but wait a minute, this is, and it's just like, they're not hard, fast rules. But anyway, once you know them, you kind of break them.
Yes.
So, the biggest one, which I'm sure we're all aware of, is denial. You know, oh my God, that's the best steak I've ever
No, it's
tasted.
not.
Oh, it's not a steak?
No.
Oh, oh God, you're right. It's chicken and it's delicious. But
No, it's not chicken
it's
either.
not chicken either. Why don't you tell me what meat that is?
It's dog.
Okay. Then I don't care for it. So denial, just like
Yep. Because it kills it.
it kills it. And then again, later on, if you get the rules down, you can kind of play with that form a little bit. Like we kind of could make that kind of funny. Once we now know what the game is, it's what is the meat, Anyway, that's
What is the meat?
the new improv rule. What is the meat?
Yes.
So denial's a big part of it.
Yes.
And then the other one that gets explored a lot is, yes and building
Yes,
on
and.
the pertinent information and the part that someone else just said, like, oh my God, the steak is delicious. What do you try the wine? It's each of ours job to keep adding elements to this scene to fill it out, in that sort of way. So it's not enough for me to say, wow, this steak is delicious. Yes, it is. Oh man, like you gotta add something so that we can get my take on that sort of thing.
The steak is delicious. Yes, and so is the wine.
Yeah, I'm just so happy we're getting together to celebrate our work anniversary.
Yes. When Joe and we had this idea at some point that we were gonna tear off the top of his house and put on a second story to combine our families.
I love it.
And we used yes and.
Okay.
At some point, we even sat down and said, we're going to use this as an idea because he would have an idea about how he felt the stairs should go. And I would not love that idea.
Yeah.
But in the process, I would shoot him down. And so we started to do yes and as a yes, and we could do this instead. Yes, and we could do this instead. And it made the whole feel so different.
It changes the vibe, and we use that phrase all the time in our meetings. If somebody will pitch something and say, "Let me yes and that," and then they'll slightly change it, because that feeling of everybody being open to an idea is what leads you down some other path where you get to someplace you never would have gotten to if somebody would have said no, or I don't like that. I don't want to take the top of the house off. I want an elevator. Like the yes and allows you to explore that. And when you kind of get in a group of people where you get comfortable knowing that your ideas are not going to be shot down, or that people are going to build on them in ways that you're going to get to more interesting places, then everything starts to feel really good in that setting.
Is there a third or fourth rule in improv?
Let me think about that. I mean, I have my little picadillos,
Ooh, what's that?
Well, picadillo is so.
Oh, I just remembered. I'm not supposed to ask questions, right?
Well, that's one of them. But
Don't ask
and
questions.
again, that's okay too. But that's where you start putting pressure on your fellow performer.
Yeah.
You invent something where this guy's like,
What do you think about that?
yeah, what do I want to get your thoughts so I know how to react to that. It's about each moment, kind of reacting to each moment, that sort of thing. So don't ask questions. That's a good note. I'm a big believer in establishing the who, what, where quickly of the scene.
Okay.
And and I could be wrong, but this is just my little philosophy. But like, I feel the audience relax when they have all those things covered. It's like, oh, who, what, where, who are they? Okay, that's brother and sister. They're at the farm. What are they doing? Well, they're arguing who's going to milk the cow. So now when I feel the audience, like when you have all those things covered very quickly, then the audience is just like, you kind of relax. But if the scene starts going and it's like two people milking a cow, but we don't know what the relationship is, and there's something hanging, But when you have all those bases covered, and then you can start looking for what's going to be funny about the scene. So
the audience isn't trying to figure out what's going on. They're just enjoying what's happening.
Yeah, once they kind of know the world, and then we don't have to keep that nagging thought in the back of our brains of like, let's establish this other element to the thing. We can start looking for what's going to be funny about the scene, like the meat scene. What's going to be funny about that meat scene that we discussed earlier? Remember the meat thing we just did?
The dog?
Yes. once we got to the dog, we knew it's a work anniversary. Perhaps now we can have some fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one for me. Good space work or wear work, we call it.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of nice to see that. I like when people explore the physical parts of the the stage. That also cracks me up too when people like they remember, and like if somebody puts a pot of shrimp over there and says, "Careful, that's boiling," whatever. Like they'll see that a little bit, and then if somebody knocks it over, I've heard audiences react to physical things that
weren't there, but they were established.
That's what's so amazing about the human mind. Just like I'm picturing that steak still here. I can't wait to get after that steak. Oh, need some A1.
Oh, yeah.
So that's some of the things that I like to explore in improvisation. I should have thought about that a little bit more. I'm sure there's some other rules that I would like to touch base with, but those are some of the important things.
So, I took classes with Mary Brewer and Chad Klein.
Okay.
If that gives you an idea of when I took my classes based on where they were in time.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved though, and I still think about this, is that and Mary would yell if you didn't do it, as you can imagine. You know Mary.
Yeah.
I love you, Mary. Please don't yell. Check in with your partner.
Yeah.
Before you start. It's that, and somebody's asked me what happens, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm here. You're here. We're connected.
Yeah.
We're about to do this scene.
Yeah. Make eye contact. That's another little rule that I like. If you don't know what somebody is doing, your scene partner, start doing it with them. Like if somebody goes straight to the front part of the stage and starts, doing something, you don't know what it is, just start doing it too. Like, okay, so we're both washing dishes, we're Army privates, we're in trouble, we were out late, So that's another little thing, like, don't let if I go up there and start doing something and then you just stand there, it's like, it's not an equitable scene now,
Right. Improv is not about conflict. You're not looking for conflict.
It's not, I'm going to blow your whole
Oh, do it.
thing.
Do it. Blow it up.
Freaking shut the cameras off. This is going to get real. It's not, but conflict is in almost every comedic scene. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the part that's not conflict is starting the scene and establishing what you're doing and who you are. That part needs to be about agreement. But at some point, it's like, oh my God, is that the way you're going to wash those pans? Like the conflict will come later, and that might be the part that ends up being kind of funny. It's two different takes on this sort of thing. But if you don't make a practice of like doing what your partner's doing, then one person's doing it and one person's in charge. And that's not an interesting dynamic as much as like two people doing something together. And then we start to know, we start to learn more about them, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's my answer.
Obviously the shows that I've seen you at, I think of you and Dave together partnering. I mean, are you guys the longest running partners, or is it just the where you are currently?
Yeah, I mean, me and Dave, Frank's kind of semi-retired. Oliver, who came on, I think a year or a year and a half after we started the show. So he's been with us for 28 years. But yeah, me and Dave are still holding down the fort. We still enjoy performing together. Now that I see the end of my career off in the distance, I try to just relish in getting to perform with Dave. Dave's my safety blanket. I know he's going to be watching this, so I'm going to really blow some smoke up the old kazoo. No, he's so great at what he does. He's so great at hosting and making everything work, So even if something goes bad during the show, which it often will, a missed cue or something doesn't quite time out right, he's going to take that little negative thing and make it funny. He's going to call it out.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about improv that can be a lot of fun is when someone makes a mistake, you don't go backstage and go, what the hell were you thinking? That becomes the focus of the scene. That little mistake is what kind of interrupts the flow of, And that's what the audience responds to. That's another little thing about improv. Like if the audience is laughing, do it more. That we tell a lot of young improvisers that it's like they're laughing at this little thing you're doing, hit it harder.
Hit it harder. Yeah, my daughter said she was walking up the stairs of the high school recently and fell
Okay.
and was really disappointed that nobody was there to like laugh with
Yeah.
at herself.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, because laughter is so fun. What are some of the craziest gold mines that you guys turned on stage to where you thought, man, how are we gonna flip this script to gold? Or maybe you didn't. Maybe it was just like it was because those fail moments happen too, where you think, oh wow, this is gonna be
great.
amazing.
Yeah. It is funny. We talk about this all the time, but the hell gigs are the ones you remember, the ones that are like so bad that you just put on a brave face and keep plowing through it. So one of our first private shows, and I love, we did a show at a haunted house, and they were like, they're going to have the end of the deal, the haunted house, they're going to have a party for everybody that worked there. And they wanted us to perform afterwards. And like, there's a railroad track, like right there, like 50 yards away. And then there was somebody's was getting married very soon. So there was a stripper that like before we did our show, there's like a stripper. This is again.
That was your opening act.
Well, it kind of was. It's even funny, even to say that now, it's just like how much has changed in 29 or almost 29 years as far as like, there's a bunch of people, men, women, and then there's this little strip act going on here. Anyway, so that happens. Then we start trying to do the show, and a trains go by every 30 minutes or whatever. So that was a real rough gig. I'll always remember that. That was one of our first private shows. And then I'm trying to think of another hell gig. Let me think about that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have an audition horror story? I have a good one.
Okay.
Unless you have one.
I have one, but
I'll share mine.
Yeah.
I'll share mine.
Okay.
So, do you remember when we had to audition for Academy commercials shooting out of Houston? Or you may have been in LA.
Yeah, I don't know if I did that one.
So, auditioning for Academy, it was wear your bathing suit, cover up,
Okay.
come in, and I'm
Wow.
pretty sure we had to drive. I know it shot in Houston. I don't know if I had to drive to Houston for it or not. And then they're like, okay, these 9 people come into the room, and 9 people come, and she's like, all right, everybody line up. She puts us in a row. She's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take off your swimsuit cover-ups. I'm going to give you your instruction. You're going to stand here. You're going to say this. You're going to turn, blah, 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 blah. Everything's great. All the instructions. She's like, okay, go stand on the wall, and I'll have you come in one by one. And I was like, great. And I turn, and I look down just to make sure.
Oh, no.
Everything's where it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And my bathing suit is way over here.
Oh, no.
And has been.
Oh, no.
The whole time.
Nobody told you?
No, she didn't even say anything.
Oh, my God.
She didn't even blink. And people were like, well, maybe she didn't notice. I was like, how do you not notice said boob hanging out?
Yeah.
But I booked it.
I mean, you talk about making an impression.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh, my gosh.
That one was.
That's a good one. That's a good one. But the fact that you booked it is so.
I did not have to wear a bathing suit in the actual commercial though.
So
I just had to like fake run.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. They were like, look, hey, we loved your audition.
Please God, don't put her in a bathing suit.
That's great. I love it. My one that I always tell the story because it was kind of funny. I think it was an insurance ad, and Joel McHale.
Those insurance people.
Oh, well, God, that's right. You're in insurance. I
Yep.
don't remember what it was, which one it was. Joel McHale, the guy from Community and actor guy, good looking dude. Back in the day, he was just a commercial actor. He was like one of the best, like he was just booking everything. So I would always see him at auditions or whatever. And so I was aware of him, we didn't, we just do the typical, hey, what's up, bro, kind of deal. But he booked everything. So it's like, okay, we're picked to go in to do this read together. And usually, they say, you have any questions beforehand or whatever? And I'm like, no questions. And I guess I was slightly aware that like I'm in with this guy who books everything. Maybe I can ride this wave a little bit. So they're like setting up this. There's like, okay, there's this car crash right here, and then you guys are gonna get out and just have a little improvise discussion of exchanging information or whatever, as insurance people do or whatever. And I don't know where my head was or whatever, but he put the two cubes down to represent the two cars, and for some reason, I thought he was saying like we both sit in the car, and then it's like action, crash, get out, hey, blah 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 blah. But his take on it, the casting director was just like, this just represents where the cars hit. You guys are standing there, so it's like, any questions? Any questions? Okay, all right, let's roll, and then action, and then I just sit down on the car, and then it's like just that sigh from him. It's cut, and then reset the whole thing, and so that was one of those really dumb little moments that I know, like, somebody saves those clips, and then they watch them later, like, look what this idiot did.
Look at this
Look
dummy.
how good looking this Joel McHale guy is, and look what an idiot this other guy is.
That
That's my story.
It's so funny though, because it doesn't seem that bad. What I know, it was bad in the moment that it was, you're trying to make an impression, but
Yeah, and I think
funny things that we hang on to, honestly.
yeah, and for whatever my little skill set is, which is minimal, I always try to be extremely prepared for auditions. You got that little moment to shine. I want to have, okay, got this, everything that I can control, and to kind of misread something so poorly, that always stuck with me. And again, knowing that afterwards they compile all the bad takes and say, look at these jackasses. And I was also in a bathing suit in that commercial,
Yes,
and my butt cheek was hanging out.
and it was amazing, and white, and
And I
purple.
booked no, I didn't book that. I didn't get a call back on that. But anyway, that's mine. I gotta jazz that story up at some point.
What do you love about doing improv? You obviously don't hate it since you're in it for 29 years now.
I love it. It's like sports to me, which I grew up wanting to play sports, and I love about sports or like surfing, like it's all this preparation, and then you're on the wave, and all you can do is completely focus on it. It's breaking in front of me. Do I kick out now? Do I try and get a little further? Oh, there's a guy in the lineup. Am I going to try and avoid? You're so dialed into that moment that nothing else matters, and you don't even realize it then. It's till afterwards where you're reflecting, like, God, I was so in the moment. Same thing with improv. When you're in a great scene and you got the who, what, where, you found that thing that's so meaty and chewy, and you're going to play with it, and you're going to have fun, and both performers know what the game is, and you're going to play with it, and you're just so locked into that moment that everything else doesn't exist. And again, you don't even know it when you're doing it, but when your scene's over, and then you go and you reflect, and it's that moment of total focus, total concentration. That's the way I would feel in certain sports, more surfing or skiing or whatever. So I'm always chasing that kind of thing. That
What
little thing.
does it sound like? Because I know being on stage, I don't remember this for the comedies, but I do remember the dramas when I knew that the audience was 100% with me because it was quiet. It was dead quiet, and the energy in the room shifts. And I've asked this question to musicians, and I've asked it to comedians, and they all kind of have a different answer. Obviously, the energy level. What does it sound like when you know that the audience is with you and it's working?
I mean, I haven't done very many dramas, so it's
I know it's got to be for your shows though, but I had to think it probably sounds very different.
yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's just laughter, and I guess that's another thing that's very addictive, is just like, like going back to when I was a kid and watching comedies with my mom and hearing her laugh, and my mama would laugh at movies. So that being around that laughter that's real and guttural is just like the greatest
The great.
sound in the world.
How do you guys take this, what you do at 4-day weekend, and go to like businesses? How do you transition? What are some things that you guys do?
We do what we call the yes and keynote, basically.
Okay.
And basically it's just as businesses get bigger and bigger, but people are less and less engaged to talk and connect. We try to do exercises and show them the importance of having, active listening to each other and yes-anding each other and that sort of thing. So when we teach that workshop, we do some exercises to get them used to that. A lot of companies have these great, brilliant minds creating these great products and doing all these great things, but are they talking to each other and are they, connecting with each other? And our business really from the get-go, it's a sense of play. Like I could call Dave right now and try to prank him or,
Mhm.
like so much of our business is goofing. Even when we're in a meeting, we're doing little goofs and that sort of thing. So that keeps that environment fun and keeps it loose and keeps it where the ideas are always flowing. So we try to talk to these big companies about this is how we do it. These are the techniques that we use. This is what improvisation is. And then, like you said, once you kind of learn improvisation, then use it in all sorts of other walks of life, which I'm sure we both do. I do too. I'll play out little scenes in my head all the time. So we try to show them those tenets of improvisation and how they might help open up communication with their fellow employees so that they can get to that next $1 billion idea quicker.
I love that. When you talk to, especially some of the new people that come in, I'm thinking about like a lot of the new comedy is mean. Like you talked about goofing on Dave, right? And
Yeah.
there is, studies now that say if you can give your friends uh, grief about something and give them, try not to say sugar honey iced tea, but it's
Right.
to give them sugar honey iced tea about something, you have a better friendship. And yet I'm always talking to my kids. I'm like, hey, the humor can't always be
Be
mean,
mean, yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's the easy joke is mean, but you got to watch it or you're just being
You're
mean.
just being mean, yeah. I my son who's in college now, but for the last prior 4 years, he'll show me something, "Oh, Mike, this is so funny." And it's just like, A, I don't get it, or B, sometimes it's kinda mean. It's just like, "Oh my god, it's not my cup of tea." So, I mean, that's my little philosophy. Am I smacking my mic loud enough? My little philosophy too was going back to my mamaw that would laugh at stuff and I always was just like, I want to be a part of comedy that I could share with my mamaw. So it has to be a certain level. And not that I don't, I mean, if something can be a kind of a dirty concept or whatever, or innuendo, but yeah, I'm a big believer in that we can find comedy that is fun and doesn't make fun of somebody, that sort of thing. And I don't know how to do that other than just try to create that kind of comedy and hope that other people that are around want to do that too.
Mm. Well, you guys, speaking of, you've been around for quite a long time. You guys started in Fort Worth
Right.
and
1997.
now you're in Dallas.
Yep.
And I just want to know who stopped sleeping with somebody that you guys lost that deal. There was like a relationship that went south.
Oh,
What?
about the Fort Worth theater?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a bit of a mystery. Boy, I don't know how deeply I want to tread this water.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Well, I'll say, Ed Bass was the one who created Caravan of Dreams, which is a beautiful facility that was a jazz club on the bottom, a 212-seat theater on the middle, and then a cool bar and, what do you call that thing? The biodome
Okay.
on top.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. And then so he creates this in the '80s, and then almost immediately it, didn't really work because I don't know what it takes to make something thrive, but so that place kinda sat empty for a long time, then we take over the theater, and we create 4-Day Weekend, and we create Buzz, and we're there for 27 years or whatever. So then at some point, there Ed Bass, there was a little bit of a marriage breakup, and then a new wife who maybe was a little bit more interested in Sundance Square, and then that's when they wouldn't renew our lease. We never got a reason as to why.
Would you have opened Dallas if Fort Worth hadn't closed?
We had already opened it.
Oh, you had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a, we didn't even really want to do that. We had just celebrated our 20th anniversary in Fort Worth. We were completely satiated with this scenario we had, but we had an old student of ours who's like, "Hey, I just bought this building in Dallas, and there's a space here that I'd like you guys to do the show at." And we were like, "Oh no, man, we're completely full over here. We're good to go." He's like, "Well, come look at it." And then we went and looked at it, and we were like, "Oh my God,
It's beautiful space. It's so fun.
I mean, that's what we've been chasing our whole career. We all had spent time in Chicago at Second City, so we're all kind of chasing that Chicago vibe. And then we walk in and we see this old church with the balcony, and when that, the stage is right there, it feels like the audience is sitting in your lap.
Oh, it's so great.
So we were like, "Oh my God, we got to do this." And then we cranked it up. 2018, COVID came. We rode that out. But God, me and Dave in particular, getting new cast people that give us youth, we secretly drink their blood after the show. Don't tell anybody that.
Secret is safe with me
That
and
youth,
all these people listening.
yes, yes, that youth that they, and that exuberance that they bring. Oh my God, that's makes me so happy. I love the new cast, and then still getting to perform with Dave is so insane. But that space where when it's rocking, I mean, it's just like, it's just the best.
So I was going to ask you about when people are like, because I've never been to Second City.
Okay.
So when people say, "Are you like Second City? How are you different?" Because Second City is like, because SNL made them famous pretty much, right? Like they're like the cream of the crop, whether they deserve it or not, but they have like the top spot.
They're considered the mecca of
Yeah.
whatever comedy is over the last, 50, 60 years, that sort of thing. So me, Frank, and Dave would go up there and take classes at the conservatory. So that was a lot of fun, and that kind of changed our lives.
When did you do that?
This was before we started 4-Day Weekend. This was
Give me the year.
95, 96.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a weird little deal. Dave's dad, Dave Wilk, who his dad had a company. He was a silent partner in a company that had a fleet of Learjets. This is how long ago this was. They would fly around canceled Federal Reserve checks in the middle of the night. Back then, you had to physically take the checks. So wherever there was a Federal Reserve bank, they would fly these bags of checks around.
Okay.
Makes sense. So this is all such a different time, man.
I'm going with it.
So we could catch a ride on these Learjets. We could sit in the jump seat with a bunch of canceled checks. So we could fly to Chicago. We could fly to Peterborough in New York. We could fly to, I think they flew to North Carolina. So all we had to do was sign up and then, or tell them we were going to go. And then we'd jump on these planes. So me and Dave and Frank fly to Chicago, take the class at the conservatory, and then fly back. And we just loved it. We were, up there. It was the time with Tina Fey and Scott Adset. They were main stage players. Steve Carell was in the first Second City show I ever saw. It's just so fun to see them as this raw youth and then go on to these heights. So that time completely changed my life, and I was actually ready to move to Chicago. I was like, okay, this is where it's at. And then my roommate was working on a film. I said, well, I'm going to stick around and let him finish this film, but then I'm going to move to Chicago unless we do something cool here, to Dave and Frank. And then that's basically when we started 4-Day Weekend. It's like, let's do our own show. So we started doing 4-Day Weekend in 97.
You guys have like keys to cities, right?
We do. We got a key to the Fort Worth city and all that stuff. Ambassadors to the city.
You're fancy pants.
Yes. Well, and Dave has always maintained great relationships with like the mayors and all that sort of stuff. So all that kind of Chamber of Commerce, you know. I'm surprised we don't have a gold shovel to shovel something at some point.
You should.
We should get one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
that
for your next video.
Our next video, we'll try to get our hands on a gold shovel. It's the least we could do.
So when people say, Troy,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of coming to see a show, what should I expect? Because I know what to expect, but I don't want to give anything away.
Wow, that's interesting.
Right? Because I don't know what to not. This is your world. What do you say?
It's funny that I've been noodling with an elevator pitch for this show for almost 29 years. So it's like I still have trouble kind of describing what the show is or trying to pitch the show. Hey, come see this show. It's like, well, what's it about? I kind of don't know. So I'm going to not have a great answer for this question as far as like, what do I tell people other than to say that it's an improv show, as you know, but we try to elevate it with lights and production qualities and bells and whistles and music to try to make sure, even if like the improv's not where we want it to be, that the show is a show and that people have a good time. And this is a terrible answer from me. I gotta come up with a better way to describe the show.
I will say,
a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. You can come in. I am partial to the brown liquor drinks. I've tried most of them, and they come in these cute little bottles.
Yes.
So
I love them too.
Getting there early to get the really fun couch seats.
Yes.
In the front or the sides. The other seats are okay, but the couch seats, super fun.
Couches are good.
Having beverages.
Yes.
Feeling the energy of the crowd.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And then because of the crowd participation and what the crowd gives the performers, it's going to be a little bit different every night. What I told Troy ahead of time is it's now my go-to place for when I bring people in from out of town. Right?
We're so thankful for that. And you're right. That's an element that I love, that the audience has kind of trained itself to give us interesting suggestions. And again, to blast out to 180 people, like, what do you want to see a scene about? Or, what do you think an interesting line of dialogue is? I would say 90% of the nights we'll pull some sort of suggestion. It's just like, in a million years, we never would have explored this particular topic. And then now we're getting to do it and connect with the audience. And I love that too. Afterwards, people will come up after the show, you used my suggestion.
You used my word. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a terrible suggestion and we have to go, oh God, thank you. Whatever, a gassy kitty cat or whatever. It's just like, oh, thank you so much, But it's fascinating that people are paying attention to the board and like, oh, that's my suggestion.
I think that was also part of the magic of it is watching, like, everybody is wanting you guys to succeed and find the fun. And it's literally how it's going to get there. And that's I truly part of the experience. Obviously, the funny is funny, but watching you guys find the moments of trying to get there, it's like we're on the same journey with you of everybody wants you to win.
Yeah, and I think that's that part that makes it such a unique live experience is that feeling of like, oh God, they're seeing everything happen and they can tell like, oh, we're a little bit stumped. Who's going to try to save the day? And so you're right. They're like, hey, oh, it's a steak, like whatever the thing that kind of connects the moment. And then it's like smooth sailing. But yeah, that's where the live part of it is still so, because people are always like, oh, you guys should tape it and this. And it's just like, we could, but it won't be the same. You got to be there and feel that energy of
in person. Sometimes you got to get off your dang couch.
That's right.
And go sit on a different couch.
That's right.
Yes.
Well said.
So if people want to find you guys to either buy tickets or book you for your
our mini corporate events, we're at 4dayweekend.com.
The number 4 or written out 4?
All written out.
Okay.
It takes 3 or 4 hours to write the whole thing out. There's one thing I would change. It's like, because that's my email address, troy@4dayweekend.com. It's like, oh my God. It's a long little title thing.
You just please feel free to email him directly with anything
with
you might
suggestions
need.
For a shorter web page address. 4dayweekend.com. improv.com. Go to that for all your comedic needs, corporate events, awards events, or shows on Friday and Saturday night in Fort Worth and Dallas.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for being with us. Please share this podcast with someone who needs a little yes and in their life about showing up with mindset and confidence. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.